early on in undergrad, I really became interested in large animal genetics. I grew up on a small family farm, and at that point I started thinking about, like, I really want to do something that is going to help like farms and help study like domestic animals, specifically in cattle. I really started to pretty quickly realize that one of the best places to go was, Texas A&M, that long-standing track record in agricultural genomics.
A pioneer in neurodevelopmental disorders, Dr. Ryan Doan discovered his passion for biomedical research while earning his PhD at Texas A&M, during which he drew inspiration from the innovative researchers he was working with and learning from.
In my case, like having the breadth of experience, working on whole genome sequencing in horses and cattle, doing copy number analyses in those species and other species really gave me a level of insight into the technology that some people in the human field may take like for granted. When coming here, be like, oh yeah, we can just do that. But it allowed me to actually create new methods. I felt like it gave me this kind of extra insight that allowed me to be more innovative. One thing that really pushed me towards my current pathway was really, interacting, talking with Dr. Scott Dindo, his work on Angelman syndrome and some of the other stuff there, and really made me realize that one of the really fascinating areas of the body is really the brain.
In 2013, Doan began a postdoctoral research fellowship at Harvard Medical School and Boston Children's Hospital, where he became particularly drawn to study non-coding regions of DNA and their connections to disorders such as autism. This would set the stage for some of the groundbreaking discoveries he would go on to make.
A lot of other groups had studied coding regions of the genome, saying that there's a gene, this variant in this gene causes autism. That's kind of where I started out, showing like there's more to the genome than just the coding regions. And that really translated into some larger scale projects. And then that led into expanding beyond autism. So we started realizing, well, autism has other disorders associated with it, like ADHD. And then we looked into it and it was like, well, we don't know a lot about ADHD.
As Doan transitioned into his current role as an assistant professor of pediatrics at Boston Children's Hospital and Harvard Medical School, his research also transitioned into better understanding the genetic mechanisms behind ADHD.
Because there's very little known in the literature at this point about the genetic causes of that, what happens is we find a lot of variants and a lot of genes that we really don't understand. And my strong interest is really, well, I still want to give these families a diagnosis. So how do we actually go from this unknown variant, unknown gene, to be able to say, this gene causes ADHD, here's your diagnosis.
During this time, Doan found a growing desire to work directly with families and made one of his most important discoveries to date, that there is a genetic basis for ADHD.
I went to patient support group with our genetic counselor at the time and met with families, and it was like that really opened my eye to being like, this is why we're doing the research. It's really for these families. And I think that really triggered me into being like, okay, I want to do clinical genetics.
Helping families gain clarity about an ADHD diagnosis and providing them with much-needed answers serves as a powerful motivation for Doan's work. His ultimate goal is to develop interventions for these families.
We recruit and work with families here in the hospital, and one of the aspects is to really understand what's going on and why do they have this diagnosis of, for example, ADHD. And they'll have outside diagnosis of one thing, and then they had a different diagnosis from somebody else, and it leads to a lot of, I'd say, stress for the family and just uncertainty and questioning what's going on. And that leads to, in the press and the just general public, people starting to wonder, is ADHD even real? And that's something that I think our work, showing that there is a true genetic basis for it, I think will hopefully help kind of change that perception in the field, but also in the general public. And most of these families, if it wasn't for our research, would never have actually had a genetic diagnosis. So a lot of these families may go their entire life wondering why did their child get this, or they're worrying if they have another child, is that child going to have the diagnosis? And we can provide them some comfort knowing that this was nothing that they did wrong. And I think that level of providing the diagnosis to these families has been one of the most impactful kind of things in my career.
Today, Doan lives in Boston, where he and his wife have built a large garden that they use to teach their son many of the valuable skills Doan learned growing up on a farm. But no matter where he is, he'll always remember how the innovative research at Texas A&M inspired his career.
The vet school to me means a lot. I think it's the place where I really, started my career. I learned so much to me. So I feel like it's like the home of my career in some ways. This is where it all began. It's an extreme honor for me. It's something I am very proud of, and it was something that I'll always hold as one of my highest achievements in my career.